Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Moving Beyond Textbook Replacement to Personalize the Student Learning Experience. This is Nicole Bono, and I am the Director of Marketing here at Fuel Education. And we're very excited to have a great audience of educators to deliver this webinar to. While everyone is logging in, there are a few housekeeping items I would like to go over. One question we always get asked is if the session is being recorded. It is being recorded, and eSchool News will be sending out an email with the recording tomorrow. So if there's anything you missed or you want to share it with a colleague, we are recording it. The second thing is let's make this really interactive. We want you to ask as many questions as possible throughout, and you can see the pane on the right of your screen where you can ask questions. So please feel free to ask questions throughout, and we will address as many of those as we can at the end. Okay, so let's get into it. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. We are very excited to have Julie Evans from Project Tomorrow with us, and from Belvoir Christian Academy we have Cathy Butterworth and Frank Streufert. And again, I'm Nicole Bono. So before we jump into it, I just wanted to give some context for the webinar so that you understand who Fuel Education is and why we are presenting this webinar. So as you can see, our mission at Fuel Education is to partner with school districts and really to fuel personalized learning with the ultimate goal of improving student outcomes. So what does that mean? At the heart of it is really our online curriculum. So as you can see here, we have over 500 courses and titles in grades pre-K through 12th grade that we deliver, that are intended to be delivered in an online and blended learning model. And for those of you in California, we are very proud that we have over 100 A to G approved courses, which is more than any other provider. So as you can see, lots of courses that we offer, and really our goal is to help you meet the challenges that you are experiencing, and I think you'll hear about some of those challenges from Frank and Cathy in a little bit, where you have kind of periphery challenges. Maybe it's struggling students, or maybe it's really high-achieving students at kind of the either end of the spectrum, and you can't really address all of those challenges in a traditional setting. So as you can see here, often a lot of our customers start with something like world languages and expand from there. So it's all those kind of periphery challenges that you're struggling with. And we're very excited to have just recently brought on a few new partners. We have LearnBop, that's an automated math tutoring solution. We have Presence Learning, who's special education, so online speech therapy and occupational therapy are some of the things they do. And then we're excited to continue partnering with Middlebury Interactive, who we work with for world languages to offer an English as a second language supplementary product. So those are just some of the solutions that we help our customers solve. And so we've got all the curriculum, we've got different solutions to meet your needs, and we also have a technology platform that we call Peak. And so Peak is really the front door and it to all of the curriculum. And Peak also allows you to customize courses. So really with the ultimate goal being to create courses relevant to students that meet their needs at wherever they may be. And so, like I said, through Peak you can customize courses and bring in open educational resources and really personalize the learning experience for the students. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Julie Evans. But before I do so, I just wanted to go back to the title of today's webinar, which is going beyond textbook replacement to personalize the student learning experience. And it's interesting because before I talked to Cathy and Frank, I thought that I was thinking that the title of this session would be textbook replacement. And as I started talking to them, I realized that really what they're doing is so much more than that. And a lot of schools that we've been talking to lately, have one-to-one initiatives. So whether it be tablets or laptops, you've got some kind of technology with curriculum on it. But this webinar is really all about how do you take it to that next step and really transform the learning experience. So Cathy and Frank will be sharing that in a little bit, but right now I'd like to turn it over to Julie Evans. Julie?
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here with all of you today. It looks like we have a wonderful group of folks that are joining us, so I'm very much looking forward to not only sharing some of the Speak Up 2014 national data results, but also working with Cathy and Frank to understand how we can better serve some of the questions that you may have. So my job as part of this is to set the context. So I'm going to be sharing with you, as I mentioned, some data results, some research findings to inform this conversation, as Nicole set it up, about getting beyond the textbook and really thinking about how do we personalize that overall learning experience. So in case you're not familiar with my organization, I am the Chief Executive Officer of Project Tomorrow. We're a national education nonprofit group. We're very particularly interested in that student experience and how technology resources is not just changing that experience for students, but really transforming the entire learning ecosystem, whether that's for students, for teachers, for parents, and for administrators. We're probably best well known for the Speak Up National Research Project. I know many of you may be familiar with Speak Up already. It is a national research project. It's conducted using online surveys as well as focus groups. We make our online surveys available to any K-12 school or district that would like to use them to collect feedback from your students, your teachers, your parents, your administrators. We give you back all of your local data as well as the national data for benchmarks. This is totally a free service that we provide to schools and districts, and it's supported by wonderful companies such as our good friends at fueleducation. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have this opportunity to be part of this today. Since we started Speak Up in 2003, we've had almost 4 million surveys submitted to us, so quite a database in terms of very relevant information about what's happening with digital learning. So as part of setting the context for you today, we're going to be looking at data that was collected this past fall using these Speak Up surveys. We had about 521,000 respondents to the surveys. You can see the breakdowns there between students, teachers, parents, administrators, and also community members, representing about 8,200 schools, 2,600 districts from all across the country. So from a big picture perspective, what do we see as some important key trends from the Speak Up data? And these may be things that you're experiencing in your schools and districts as well, or there may be some new ideas here for you to think about. So a couple different things I wanted to point out to you. The first one is that we do see increased urgency, particularly amongst administrators, about how to effectively use technology to transform that learning experience. I believe that urgency is being driven by new demands, both from parents as well as from policymakers. And so we see that administrators are more interested than ever before about how to make the technology world work within the K-12 education world. As part of that, we see that administrators and teachers are very interested in different types of learning and teaching models. Blended is getting an awful lot of attention. We did a special set of questions this year around blended learning, and we've been tracking flipped learning for the last couple of years as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. We also have seen that teachers increasingly are using not just more digital content in the classrooms, but different types of digital content. And they're also looking for new ways to measure the impact of using technology. All of this, of course, is putting a greater focus on this idea around personalized learning, and that's a topic that we've been doing a lot of research around for the last couple of years. So on last year's teacher survey, we asked the teachers to describe for us, to define for us, what does the term personalized learning mean for them? And so I brought a couple real-life quotes from some teachers. Now, this one is particularly interesting, and again, this is an elementary teacher in Indiana, because this particular teacher talks about individualizing curriculum plans for each student's ability. So that's very different than just differentiating instruction. This is really talking about from the ground floor up, thinking about what the student's abilities are, and then looking for how digital tools and resources can support each individual student where they are in their learning process. Now, the other thing that we did that was interesting last year is that we asked administrators, in this particular case district administrators, what types of digital learning approaches have you implemented in your schools and districts that are already showing positive results? So beyond just the early stage pilots, what are the ones that you really feel very strongly are having the types of positive results that you want to see? And here are the top 5 that we heard from district administrators that year, last fall. So this idea of using digital content within instruction has grabbed the attention of lots of different folks, whether that's implemented through tablets, mobile devices, whether that means educational games, digital textbooks, or implement within a blended learning approach. We're seeing a lot of interest and resonance amongst administrators as to the positive effects around these different types of approaches. Now, this idea of digital content is one that we've also been polling on for the last couple of years, and it gets to Nicole's point about getting beyond just the idea of a textbook replacement. And so just looking at one-year trend from what teachers told us in fall 2013 to what teachers are told us this past fall in 2014, we see that teachers are increasingly using many different types of digital content in their classroom, ranging from videos that they're sourcing online to fully online curriculum, the online textbooks, and also game-based environments. Now, we asked the teachers a couple additional questions about how they were using that digital content. Now, this is actually a line of questioning that we started way back in 2003 and 2004, and so it was interesting to see the change over the last 10, 11 years. So what we think is particularly interesting is that only about a third of teachers, the bottom line right there, told us that they're using the online digital content they're finding just as it is, with no modification, no customization, no individualization. Now, when we first polled on that, as I said, 10, 11 years ago, 2/3 of teachers told us that they were using the digital content that they were finding online just plain vanilla, just right out of the box. Whatever video they found, whatever article, whatever type of a podcast or an audio file, they were just using it just as it was. So this slide actually speaks to the increasing sophistication that teachers have about using digital content, because as you can see, a majority of the teachers, and remember we had a little bit over 40,000 teachers that took the survey, told us that in fact they're using that digital content in different ways. They're using it to inform new lesson plans. They're customizing with their own ideas and resources, and they're regularly going back and updating old plans with digital content. Again, underscoring that idea that the digital content is really in service of personalizing that learning experience for the students. Now, the other side of the coin is that we asked principals about what they saw as the benefits of digital content usage within instruction. As you would expect, principals told us that they were very bullish around the idea of increasing student engagement, that students would be more engaged, more motivated for learning if there was elements of digital tools and resources used within that instruction. They also liked the idea that that digital content didn't just exist in the classroom, but that it really could extend the learning day. So if students had access to the internet outside of school, that learning process could continue beyond 3 o'clock. I also think it's really important that as we are all looking at enhancing the relevancy of the learning process for students, the principals saw that digital content serves that purpose. And then interesting that the principals saw that the use of digital content could actually be a motivator for teachers to improve their skills with using technology. Now, the other side, however, is that principals do continue to have some concerns. And so when we asked what the barriers or obstacles were to using more digital content. These are the top 4 that they shared with us. Of course, the idea of the infrastructure. Do we have enough bandwidth? Do we have enough computers or devices so that students have that sort of access? How does this all fit in with all the other priorities that we're working on? And then the other one that we have seen increasing interest, or at least have been hearing from principals about, is how do I, as a principal, as an instructional leader in my school, how do I evaluate the quality of the digital content that we are putting in front of students? How do I make sure that it's rigorous? How do I make sure that it's appropriate for the students? With the plethora of digital content that's out there, this is becoming more and more of a very critical concern for administrators. To help shed some light on that, maybe to inform some of your efforts in this in dealing with the same question, we asked both teachers and principals to talk to us about the factors that they considered most important when they were evaluating digital content or online curriculum to use within their classrooms. And so we see a little bit of an interesting disconnect here, again coming from a perspective of both the principal and the teacher. So from the principal standpoint, the idea of that digital content or online curriculum being research-based and being able to point to solid student achievement results were really the most important things that the principals felt were critical in terms of evaluating digital content. From the teacher's perspective, and this again is a change reflecting that increasing sophistication of teachers, they want to be able to know how they can modify that digital content. How can they customize it or personalize it for what's happening in their classroom, for where their students are? They also were very interested in whether or not it was created by teachers or referred to them by another teacher who had had proven success with it. Now, interestingly, both principals and teachers were also interested in making sure that there was some level of teacher evaluation on that digital content or online curriculum, that curriculum was not being developed off in some ivory tower somewhere without a connection into what actually happens in the classroom. So they looked at that as being an important part of considering the quality as well. Now, in terms of emerging models and solutions, and some folks here that are with us today may already be implementing some of these different emerging models or solutions, we've been tracking the continued interest or growing interest in flipped learning. So if you're not familiar with flipped learning, I'll give you just a really brief little description here. Probably not going to do it justice because we don't have enough time. But the way it's been described to me and the way I've seen it implemented in classrooms is that the classroom instructional time is flipped. So what teachers are doing, for example, is that they're doing some videos, creating videos of themselves, giving a lecture or maybe leading a lab, science lab, and then having their students watch or participate with that media at home as part of homework, and then using the class time to do either remediation with students, project-based learning, to do some special, unique instructional projects where the students can collaborate with each other. So that's what they mean by the flipped. So from our data, we see about 14% of teachers say that they have flipped their classroom. They're implementing some type of this model. An additional 17%, though, are interested in trying it this year. Now, the other trend that we're watching is this idea around intelligent adaptive software that is smart enough to understand how to either increase the rigor of the particular activity that the student is involved with or decrease it or give them more opportunities for remediation. Look at this number. 3/4 of principals said that they thought this was a very interesting way to provide that right level of instruction for each student. So again, different ways to think beyond just personalizing, but how the technology can actually help support that. And we see this here in this next quote from a teacher about personalized learning. In this particular case, this teacher talked about, again, customizing to the student. And if that technology, if those digital content or tools are smart enough, they can first measure where the student is, then adjust accordingly to meet the particular needs of that student. Now, in terms of teachers' wish list around professional development, we quite often use this as a litmus test to understand where teachers are in their increasing maturation or sophistication around using digital tools. So I think it's particularly noteworthy for our conversation today that 51% of teachers told us this past fall that their number one item that they wanted on their professional development wish list was, how do I use technology to do that type of personalization? How do I differentiate instruction? How do I make sure that the tools that I'm using are most appropriate for the students and the way that we're thinking about changing that learning experience for the students themselves? Now, finally, what I wanted to share with you, which I think is really interesting, new data findings, is that we asked teachers two fundamental questions on last fall's survey. We asked them about the impact of digital learning, the use of digital content, tools, and resources on their students, and then also on their own productivity. So first we'll take a look at what teachers told us about the students. So as a result of using technology within instruction, the teachers told us that their students are more motivated to learn. They're taking ownership of their learning, thus creating the opportunity for these students to not only be more self-directed, but to really be the type of lifelong, life-wide, life-deep learning experiences that we want students to have. We also thought it was interesting that the teachers draw a correlation between using the technology within instruction and students developing the types of college and career-ready skills that we've all been talking so much about, whether that's problem-solving, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. And then be able to go beyond just the basic instruction and understand, so how does this instruction, this content that I'm learning, how does it get applied to actual practical problems, to the real world? So from a student perspective, teachers see great value in the use of technology within instruction, and particularly around the idea of using digital tools, content, and resources. Now, in terms of thinking about their own productivity, it's a nice reflection on the results that they're seeing from their students. So the teachers told us as a result of using technology within their instructional plan, they're creating more interactive, more relevant lessons. They're facilitating more student-centered learning. They're encouraging students to be more self-directed, and that they have that additional time to differentiate, to personalize, to customize instruction, as well as to have stronger connections with their students. I think that last one is particularly interesting. When I do focus groups around the country, and I have the wonderful pleasure of doing about 30 focus groups a year with students all over the country, K through 12, they overwhelmingly talk to me about the importance of the teacher in their learning lives and the fact that they want to have a stronger connection to their teachers. So if technology provides that sort of opportunity, it's a win-win. The teachers feel better about the learning process, and it really addresses a fundamental need that the students have as well. So my final quote here is from a high school teacher who talked about personalized learning as really giving the teachers the choice of how to differentiate, how to individualize, how to customize that type of learning experience for all the different students they have. And I think it's really interesting because it underscores the vital importance of teachers in today's learning experience. I think for a while there was chatter around the fact that technology would replace the teacher, technology would move the teacher to the side, and in fact what we're seeing, and it's coming out loud and clear from our data, is an increasing importance when we're talking about personalized learning of the role of the teacher in facilitating that type of process. Technology helps to serve that purpose, and it helps the teachers to address the types of instructional goals that they have in the classroom. So with that, I hope that was an interesting context for all of you. I see that folks are already starting to prompt some questions, and so I hope that we do get some good questions. I'm really interested in hearing from Cathy and Frank about what they're doing in their particular school, but I did want to let you know that if you're interested in more of the Speak Up data or participating in the Speak Up surveys, which will be opening up on October 1st next year, you can come visit us at tomorrow.org and learn more about that. So with that, I'm going to turn the program now over to Cathy, who's going to tell us a little bit about her school. Cathy and Frank tell us a little bit about their school and some of the interesting things that they've been doing there.
Thank you so much, Julie. We are so excited to be a part of this today and to be able to share our program with all of you. We have had great success this year, and we're just really excited to share that. We are Belvoir Christian Academy. We are located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are a very small private Christian school. We have our population, our enrollment is about 120 this year. We serve children from 6 weeks of age to through 8th grade. and we are next year going to be adding the high school offering through online learning. Up until now, well, we are still a traditional model school for pre-K through 6th grade. So all of our students who are in pre-K through 6th grade are in traditional classrooms. We implemented the digital learning in 2014 for our 7th and 8th grade middle school program, and we've been able to branch a little bit beyond that this year and really plan to go even further with that next year. We are actually located in a small community of East Ridge, Tennessee, but we're pretty centrally located in Chattanooga, and we are just over the line from northern Georgia. So our area is about 250,000, Frank, would you say, students or families who would have easy access to our school. So anything you want to add to that one, Frank?
Well, we just see our school as a place where families can come, and we are, as our name says, a Christian school, and so many of our families come to get the Christian teaching and the Christian ideals that they agree is important to their students. And we have found a way in which we can help some of our middle school students, and as Cathy said, it's been very exciting and very interesting as we've gone through the year to see how it all has worked out.
Okay, so of course we were facing some challenges as we came into this. We have, as many private Christian schools, and there are many private Christian schools in Chattanooga, but I believe we are the only ones who are using digital learning to the extent that we are. But many of us have had to cut staff because our enrollments have declined over the past few years. We are in competition with some private schools who have way more to offer in terms of course selection and activities because we are so small. Last year for 2013-14, we had our 6th and 7th grade was so small that we had to combine them in one traditional class with two teachers, 2.5 teachers positions sharing the teaching role. That did not work well at all. As you might imagine, we had students who were 6th graders who were coming in at 10 and 11 years old in a classroom doing the exact same assignments, same classes as students who were leaving 7th grade and going into 8th grade who were already 14 years old. So this was just really wasn't working for us. And we have, of course, a variety of developmental levels there, learning levels, learning styles, and we just weren't able to individualize anything with that model. So what we also, our resources have been very lacking. We have our textbooks were becoming outdated, and really funds had not been available to replace these textbooks. And even when we did replace them, we were finding out that, of course, every couple of years they were outdated again. So we didn't have up-to-date information, learning materials for our students. Again, I talked about the varying levels of competency and learning styles. The other thing that we discovered in this search for a better model was that across our area here in Tennessee, which is Hamilton County Public Schools, many parents are pulling their special needs students out of the public school system because they are not happy with the services that they're receiving. and they're looking for alternative ways for their children to learn and alternative programs for them to be in where they can be with typical peers and not be lumped into a special ed classroom. So with that in mind, we made the transition to the online learning program through FuelEd, and that has opened up a huge variety of course options for us. I used an example here that I have, at some time during the day, I have 8 students in my classroom, and those 8 students are now enrolled in 5 individual math programs, from basic math to high school Algebra 1, and they're getting high school credit for that class. No way could we do that with the staff that we had before this. So we're really thrilled that we have that going. I am the mentor teacher. That's actually my job title. I'm the mentor teacher in the classroom, and I really am the teacher who is in the classroom physically with those students all day. And I facilitate the students as they work through assignments in all their classes. The material that we have available to us through FuelEd is up to date. It's not, we don't use any hardback, we don't use any textbooks at all. All of the curriculum is online. And I'm able to personalize learning for all of my students. I have students who, for example, I have students I have 3 7th grade students right now. All of those 7th grade students are enrolled in 7th grade classes online. For example, social studies and world history, life science, physical science, those classes that you would typically see in a traditional classroom. However, I am able to design, or not exactly design, the curriculum is actually already there for us, but I'm able to sort of pick and choose what parts of the curriculum work for individual students. And so I have students who come in and are totally self-motivated. They come in and sit at their computer and they work throughout the day and they move ahead and complete assignments. And I have others that either developmentally or learning-wise are not quite there, or not maybe don't quite have the motivation that I have to work with to select assignments, delete assignments, modify assignments. And I can do that through the FuelEd curriculum. Jump in whenever you want, Frank.
We call this a blended education, and we do that because while the curriculum that the students are receiving in the classes that they're registered through FuelEd, they also are taking some classes outside of that here in the building. For example, they all take a religion class that is taught by our pastors. They take PE, they take art, they have music classes. So that's more of a traditional setting, and we combine that with the online education, which has worked very well. And also the students are able to be involved in many of the social things going on in the school. They go to lunch with a lot of the other students. They're able to participate in athletics. And they also are mentors themselves to some of our younger children. We call them chapel buddies. And we have our students all aligned into faith families. And there are some of the blended ed students, and then there are some of the middle intermediate students, and some of the elementary students, and some of the pre-K students in a particular faith family. And so these students, our oldest ones, our 7th and 8th grade students, are sort of leaders in their individual groups. So a lot of leadership training goes along with it, as well as the different learning that happens inside the Fueled Ed program.
Okay, the next few slides are just, I thought you might like to see some pictures of, these are 6, this first slide here, these are just 6 of my 8 students, and they range in grade and age from 6th grade through age 17. I have 2 special needs students who are actually 17 years old. One of them is autistic, and I will talk to you about him in a little while. The next one, the not a traditional classroom slide, is just an example of how students can also, as well as working individually on their assignment and at their own pace, occasionally there's a project that comes along in their classes that they would like to do and they will ask to do as a group. And so they're able to then pull up the computer and have their assignment, their project, or whatever it is, the assignment is, and work on it together in group collaboration. And that's been really important to us because they're used to being able to do that. And I thought that was a component of the traditional classroom that I really liked. And I didn't want that to fall by the way and have them just on their own at a computer and not interacting with other students throughout the day. So that's worked very well also. These are just some other slides of my students that work on their computers in the classroom. We made the classroom very colorful and happy. So we call it our happy room. And the students really enjoy being in there. Transitioning to teaching in a blended environment is the shift to from traditional classroom to blended learning was a huge step for my students and for us. We honestly, I will have to say, I wasn't sure the first week if I was going to make it with this, that our kids if they were really going to get this content, because it was so, it was very rigorous for them. But they jumped in, and we all just jumped in with both feet. We didn't say, well, we're just going to do 2 classes or whatever. We just jumped in and did every class. And we're so glad we did that now, because they have taken off and really excelled. So I'm just really proud of them and love the Fueled Ed program. The content is on their, each of them has a separate program that's accessed through username and password, and their classes are available to them, their assignments are available to them. My students now come in and start working from at the beginning of the day, and I'll show you a little schedule in a couple of minutes. So they are actually, the instruction is all online. The grading is provided by online instructors, and each class has an online instructor who is certified through Tennessee and who provides extra support for them, as well as grading the assignments that they complete. They also have access to live teaching sessions 1 to 2 times a week, and those sessions are recorded. I allow my students to tune into these sessions as they feel the need, for the most part. Occasionally, I have a student that I see struggling with a concept, and I will then assign them that live teaching session to go back to just for extra support. The online instructors are also available. My students email back and forth with their online instructors. They talk to them by phone, they text, and that's available to them throughout the day and evening, in addition to what I'm doing with them. I can't stress enough, though, that the key to the success of this program is the mentor teacher in the classroom. And this role is not just a monitor. I sort of had the impression when I agreed to do this that I would be a monitor in the classroom. The students would be working on their assignments, and I'd just sort of be there to answer questions if they needed that. And I wasn't loving that idea because I'm a teacher. But the reality is actually that they need to have that teacher, especially middle school kids have to have that mentor teacher in the classroom, and it has to be a person who is knowledgeable of the coursework that they do. So I'm able to then assist them with completing their assignments, with revising their assignments. I do actually some one-on-one reteaching with students many times. I stay up on the lesson content so that I can adjust lessons for individual students when they need that. So rather than spending time now at home, which we all do as teachers, outside class, planning and grading papers, I'm spending my time familiarizing myself with the content of the lesson and what part of the content is going to be appropriate for each individual student, and how I can modify or delete or add lessons that work for individual students. The other thing I'm able to do is to serve as a liaison between the online instructors and the students. And I'm in contact with the online instructors daily in some cases, but they're always available for, especially if there are things that I really am not able to understand what the assignment is actually asking for. I can go to that online instructor and get some answers on that. They are graded on the FuelEd grading system. They all have a grade sheet for each class. We actually take the grades that they earn on the FuelEd platform, and I actually transfer them to our grading system here at our school. So every student has there are little differences. There are some little differences in every student's grade profile on our grading system because they are actually at pacing differently and doing a little bit different assignments. So I also structure daily lessons for some students who aren't self-directed. As I said, I have 2 students who come in, sit down, do their work, get through the day, know where they need to go, pace themselves, and then I have some others that I plan what they will do today, and I plan what they will take home to work on at home because they aren't quite there with being self-directed at this point. Frank, jump in.
Well, I just wanted to sort of at the end of this tell everyone how important it is that all of our students feel comfortable with technology. Last April, a year ago, we had a reaccreditation visit through National Lutheran School Accrediting and Advanced Ed. And the visiting team, many of you have been into your school when a visiting team comes in, and one of the things they were particularly looking for was the use of technology in the instruction in school. And they went into all of our classes and saw a lot of technology instruction, and the comment at the end was that, well, we saw a lot of technology instruction, but what we really wanted to see was the students doing the technology, not the teacher necessarily doing that, but the students getting actually involved. And this program definitely involves them in that. And we're helping to prepare students to be able to work outside of school as they get older, and you all know how important that is. We had a server issue this morning, and honestly, the people in the office didn't know what to do. We couldn't even run paychecks for today. And that's so critical that our kids, our students, know how to do that and to find information on their computers. I just flew back into town after our spring break, and you've all been on board a plane when they go through the safety features, and the flight attendant said, and you all need to turn off your cell phones, and if you don't know how to do it, go ask the nearest 10-year-old. And it's critical that our kids know how to do that.
Okay, this is just a view of what our day looks like. We start our day, our students actually are here at 8:15, and they have a little homeroom period. And then, as Frank had said earlier, they go to their traditional religion class, which is taught by our church pastors. At 9:20 to 9:25, they come into our classroom. They start up their computers. I require every student to keep a log sheet every day with information about each assignment that they work on and how far they get in that assignment. Some of the students do their own log sheet, and some of them I do for them, and they are waiting for them when they get there, so they know then what they need to do. However, I will say that even the ones that I'm doing the log sheets for them, I am hearing much less now of what do you want me to do next, and more of is it okay if I skip and do this now, or I'd really rather work on this for 2 or 3 hours today and then take some of these other things home. So they're starting to really take control of their learning and to really understand that this is a responsibility they have, and that this is not my rule, but it is this is their job, and I'm really, really pleased with that. We break at 12, and we have a lunchtime, and we are in the cafeteria with the rest of the school at the same time. And at 12:30, we go back to our classwork, and I work until 2:45, and then from 2:45 to 3:30, they have as Frank said, the traditional PE, art, and music classes, and then they're dismissed at 3:30. I allow my students I afforded them the responsibility at the very beginning of the year to take their own breaks. When you need a break from the computer, you can take a break, you can walk around, you can chat for a few minutes, you can go out to the restroom, you can get water, you don't have to ask me. I will be working with a student when this is going on. And I do have, I don't know if I meant to say a few slides ago that I really spend about at least an hour a day with almost all of my students, just one-on-one working with them. Again, the log sheets, either I provide them or the students work through them on their own. So that's pretty much the way our day goes. Now, lots of times we have interruptions, like this morning when there was no internet. So then we do have to figure out where we're going to go. Usually there is, if we have a situation like that, which really is very rare, they usually have a written assignment that they're working on that's on their computer already on Word or one of those programs that they can use, and they can go ahead and work on some of that, or they can work on some extra math problems or whatever during those times. So there's always something to do, even if we go offline for a little while. The last slide here, this is our last slide, and these are just sort of our measures of success, and what we're the most proud of is how successful our students have been. Several of these students have been A/B students since they've been at Belvoir Christian Academy, and that was, for some of them, they've been here since they were 3 years old. I was a little concerned, I will say, at the beginning of the year because the content is so rigorous, lots of critical thinking skills required, reading for information, applying the information that they're learning, and a lot of writing. And they have just not been used to doing that much. But they have just taken off. I'm so proud of them. They've all maintained the A-B average, with the exception of maybe one or two who might have a couple of C's. But honestly, these are not, I didn't just leave out the lessons that they haven't done well on. I mean, they really have earned these grades. So I'm really, really pleased about that. I have a special needs student who is working to hopefully obtain her GED, and she needs to do a GED prep class, but she's really not quite there yet. She's still working on basic skills. She's one of the 17-year-olds that I have. But she has made so much progress this year. I started her in lessons that were read to her on about a 3rd to 5th grade reading level, and I'm now able to give her classes on the level that she should be at, which is about 9th, 10th grade, and she's doing quite well with them. They're challenging. You know, she's more challenged now. It's not easy, but she is making progress, and her writing skills have increased tenfold. I'm really pleased to see the writing that she's producing now. So we'll have her ready to do this GED prep class next year. Another student that is really very just touches my heart is an autistic child that we have who he's only been with us about 5 or 6 weeks maybe, and he is 17 also. He has been in a traditional special education classroom lumped together with many, many kids of differing disabilities. He has speech. He is able to speak, but he doesn't use verbal speech. He communicates through writing or through the computer. His lifeline to the world is the computer, and he had not been allowed to use a computer at school before he came into our program. And he has never been self-directed, from what his parents have told me. He comes in, I set his lessons up, he goes through his lesson, he takes a break when he needs it, he goes back to the lesson, and he is really making progress just in the 5 weeks I've had him. I'm pleased, his parents are pleased, and we are really looking for that to be, to add some students who learn the way he does for our next year. So this is pretty much what we do, and we are very excited about this program and about the progress our students have made. Frank, anything more you would like to add?
Well, at the beginning of all of this, my board of directors had said, well, with this number of students, we're just going to have to cancel our 7th and 8th grade. And I thought, no, these students have been with us all along. We've got to find a way to service them. And this was a way in which we could do it. And I've just been pleased with the program and how it's worked. So you all want to give it a try, I think you'll find success. If you have the students who need to be differentiated as part of your learning process. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you so much, Frank and Cathy, and thank you, Julie. We have a bunch of questions that have come in, and I want to make sure we address them. So one other thing I want to remind everyone about is that we will be making the recording available. We'll get an email from eSchool News tomorrow, and you see up on your screen a white paper we just recently produced with Getting Smart on Personalizing Learning, so that may help you in your journey to personalized learning as well. Okay, so Frank and Cathy. Actually, Cathy, probably this question is directed to you. What strategies have you found successful with students unmotivated to work at their own pace?
That's a really good question, and one that I did struggle with a little bit in the beginning. I have one student that I do some incentives with. He's allowed to go next door and participate in weekly auctions when he gets all of his work completed. I have to say homework is probably the biggest challenge with that because when they're in the classroom, they honestly are on it. They are on their assignment throughout the day, and they really take fewer breaks than I imagined that they would. Now, what happens is when they go home with their computer, they don't always follow through with assignments that I may assign for them. So that's when I have to work with some incentives on, what's going to be important to you, at the end of the week. Is it going to be a little more free time? Is it going to be some computer games that you're going to get to play a couple of times a day? Is it going to be getting to go next door to Ms. Meissner's class to participate in the auction? And those are some of the incentives that I use. My parents also are very, very involved in their children's education, and they work really closely with me and with them at home. So that really helps too. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, great. And so the next question would be, are students required to have a certain amount of seat time per course, per day, per week, per term? That's best for for you, Cathy.
When you say seat time, I guess you mean, are they required to have a certain number of hours of?
Yes.
Okay. There is a requirement for Tennessee for the required amount of academic hours per day, which we meet. And as far as the amount of work they get done or the assignment, that I individualize. And that's all about knowing your student. I really have to know who I can push and who I don't want to push, who needs to have some extra time to do assignments, and maybe who I need to push because they've wasted some time, and so they maybe pile up a couple of assignments. So really, I think that's all in that mentor-teacher role and knowing who your students are and knowing what they're capable of. And that takes some learning, and it's sort of a learning curve in the beginning where you're not real sure, because I've never taught any of these students before, but you learn pretty quickly what they're actually capable of accomplishing within a day. So no, there's no real requirement as far as we have Algebra 1, of course, they have to finish that class to get the credit. So these guys that are doing Algebra 1 have to finish that. Spanish, they have to finish that in order to get the credit so they can go to Spanish 2 in high school. So they know that, and nobody yet has gotten so far behind that I think they can't finish. So I'm just real pleased with them.
Okay. Last question. We have a bunch coming in, so sorry we won't get to all of them, but we will be following up with folks individually. Cathy, this one's for you again. What strategies do you use for classroom management? And I'll throw another one in. And have you found any students that refuse to participate in digital learning?
I have actually not had one single issue with classroom management this year. I will use one of my students as an example. This child is brilliant. He is very, very, very capable, but he has a myriad of emotional issues. He has in the past been bullied horribly by his classmates, has not been able to keep up with his classwork in the traditional classroom, is always behind, loses assignments, forgets to turn things in, and then gets late grades or gets a 0 on a project or a grade. And so was really just not doing, he was just really miserable this year because he believes he's in charge, and he is in charge of his own learning. He comes in, he works on the computer, he gets his assignments done. For the most part, there are days when he is not as on. He also has pretty severe ADHD. So there are days when I just know that the amount work that I'm going to assign for him is not going to be as much as I would on an on day. But the climate in our classroom is one of acceptance, and we work together, we respect each other, and they all have adhered to that, and they all respect each other. He had, last year, probably had a meltdown weekly at least. We had to pull him out of class to, help him work through some meltdowns with other students or with a teacher or whatever. This year, he has not had one single meltdown. So just that, the fact that the classroom is always quiet, it's ordered, it's structured. They're wearing their headphones, so they are blocking out some of the noise. I don't have any problem with them. If I leave the room and come back in, yeah, there is some chatting going on, but it's not, and I don't mind that because they're allowed to chat every now and then. You can't just stay stuck to a computer screen all day. So no problems at all with that, and I think the online aspect and them being responsible for their learning has really created a classroom climate that is just conducive to on-task behavior and to not refusing. Now, they will bargain with me sometimes on assignments. I won't say that they refuse to do them, but there are times when a couple of them will bargain. Can I do this assignment and not do this one? Because almost every assignment is a writing assignment, or every lesson has a writing component. And I don't mind doing that. That's okay. I can bargain to a point, but when it's my decision, it has to be my decision, and they respect that.
Okay, great. Well, we are out of time, so for any questions we didn't get to address, we will be following up with folks. And thank you so much again to Cathy, Frank, and Julie, and hope you all found this to be very valuable. And I encourage you to visit getfueled.com if you have any more information. Have a great afternoon.